Can you believe a member of Congress wants to visit a facility in his district to see what's going on with these illegal aliens, and he's told he's not allowed to? And we have that congressman with us. He's a friend of the show, Congressman Jim Bridenstein of Oklahoma. How are you, sir?
I am well, Mark. Thank you for having me on. This is quite outrageous.
Tell everybody exactly what happened here.
So, I went down to Fort Sill. It's not in my district, but it's in the state of Oklahoma. I'm the only member of Congress from Oklahoma on the Armed Services Committee. And so I visit all the military facilities from time to time in the state of Oklahoma. I went down there to visit the commanding general, who I have known for a while. He was in Washington, D.C. before he got sent down to Fort Sill in Lawton, Oklahoma. I went down there to visit him. We talked about air defense artillery and all kinds of military-related items. And then I told him that I was planning to visit the Health and Human Services facility for unaccompanied alien children. And, he suggested that, you feel free to do that, but he didn't want to go. It wasn't his mission, and he didn't want to be part of me going over there. So I went with just my staffers, and here's what I saw. This is a military barracks, just like any other military barracks you may have seen. It looks like a bachelor quarters on a military base, except this time it had a chain link fence all the way around it. The chain link fence had on it, cloth so that you couldn't see through the chain link fence. And we drove around looking for a guard. Like, we thought there would be a gate with a guard where we could actually talk to somebody and ask if we could talk to the person in charge of the facility. As you know, Mark, there have been horrible reports coming, from the Border Patrol. Specifically, there are reports from Lackland Air Force Base, where they are housing unaccompanied alien children at Lackland Air Force Base, where they're saying that 30% of the females being detained at these facilities, 30% of them, and I'm talking about girls that are 11, 12, 13 years old, 30% of them have been abused, including raped. And so you can imagine this is a very significant thing for our country. I, as a member of Congress, wanted to see the facility. This is about the kids. And by the way, there are reports about these kids being used. They're being rented, because if you have a child with you and you cross the border, the belief by some is that you'll get to stay in our country rather than being deported. So they're renting children. We're talking about trafficking. And again, these aren't my reports. These are reports from the Border Patrol. So I had an interest in going to this facility. I get there. It's locked down. You can't see through. There are no gates. And so we drove around a couple of times. And finally I saw that there was somebody peering through the fence at us. And so we stopped the car. I got out. I said, "Hi, my name is Jim Bridenstein. I'm a member of Congress. I represent the 1st District of Oklahoma. I'm on the Armed Services Committee, and I would very much like to talk to the person in charge of this facility." And the gentleman was very professional. He made a radio call, and the radio call came back and said, "We're not going to give any tours until the 21st of July. At which point I said, "Make sure that the gentleman on the other end of the radio knows that I'm a member of Congress and this is federal property." At which point he made another radio call, and the same response came back. I said, "Okay, I want to make really clear. You understand I'm a member of Congress." And yes, we do understand that. "Okay, I want to talk to somebody who's not a contract security guard." And out comes a gentleman who shook my hand. He was very polite, and he said, "We're not going to take any tours until July 21st. I said, "You do understand I'm a member of Congress?" And he said, "Yes, we understand that." I said, "Okay, well, I think this is the wrong decision. This is federal property, but I'm gonna walk away," and we left. I called Health and Human Services, the office of the deputy director of communications for Health and Human Services. I had a chat with the assistant who answered the phone there, and I said, "Hey, I was given your number as somebody to contact regarding my inability to gain access to a federal facility detaining unaccompanied alien children, and these kids have some quite outrageous stories. All I want to do is visit the facility, make sure everybody is safe and sound, and certainly I want to talk to them and hear what their stories may be." and of course the secretary or the assistant on the other end of the phone said, well, the deputy communications director is not taking phone calls right now, but you can send him an email.
Jeez.
This guy's name is Ken Wolf, by the way. He said you can send him an email. I said I want to be clear. I'm a member of Congress. Would you please?
That's part of the problem. They don't like Congress, and they act like they're in charge of everything.
That's right. So I said I want to make sure that he understands I'm a member of Congress. And she put me on hold, and then she came back and she said he would prefer to communicate via email. I said, Roger that.
Well, now wait a minute. Are they going to protect their servers or what?
Are they going to protect? Say that again.
You know, their servers, so they don't lose their email this time.
Exactly. That's a great question. So I said, look, if I send an email, my email is going to be a press release explaining that I was just denied access to a federal facility. And I want to be clear, Mark. I have been I was a Navy pilot before I was a member of Congress, and I flew counter-drug missions down in Central and South America. I have spent a big portion of my life in El Salvador and other places throughout the region. Here is what this administration tells people. They say, oh, there's a refugee problem, but this problem is because crime is so bad in Central America. They say that, poverty is so bad in Central America. Crime and poverty were bad when I was there. They are bad now. It is not worse now. The only difference between now and then is the fact that this administration has advertised to the world that if children come to the United States unaccompanied, they will get to stay. And this has created the problem. President Obama has created the crisis. And, of course, what does he do? He goes on television just yesterday, and he blames Republicans because we didn't pass comprehensive immigration reform. And interestingly, that has nothing to do with this. And if you remember, when they were trying to pass comprehensive immigration reform, Janet Napolitano was on record saying that the southern border was secure. Well, I'm sorry, but the southern border is not secure if 11 and 12-year-olds are walking across it. And oh, by the way, they're walking across it.
Congressman, I want to ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
You were denied access to this facility. You're a member of the Armed Services Committee, under which this facility for which this facility you have some oversight. Are your fellow Republicans going to stand up for your efforts to simply see what's going on in this facility? That this administration is also threatening, apparently, doctors and nurses. There's a Fox report out that they're not to talk about these foreigners with these various increasingly prevalent diseases, which used to be relatively eccentric in this country because we wiped them out, but they're now coming across the border. This is becoming a huge problem. Congress has oversight responsibilities. What will Congress do?
I was just talking, to your point earlier, I was just talking to a doctor this morning, and he's saying that for the first time in years, he's seeing cases of bed bugs, the likes of which he's never seen before, and he thinks this is directly attributable to the massive influx of people coming across the border. Now, here is the scenario. We have, some underling, quite frankly, that is running a facility at Fort Sill, which is an Army base, who basically rejected me. Now, I don't blame him. He is following orders. The question is, where do those orders come from? We need to go up the chain of command. I want to know what the policy is from Health and Human Services as for members of Congress visiting a public, it's not a public facility, but a federal facility. As a member of Congress, there is no level.
Well, how is it Nancy Pelosi got to visit federal facilities and you don't?
That is exactly the point, Mark. The point is this. This was me being blocked for political purposes. There is no classification level beyond which a member of Congress cannot see. And this isn't even a classified facility. This is a facility that any member of Congress should have access to. They don't want, for political reasons, they don't want members of Congress to visit this. And this is the question. What are they trying to hide? Is it that they don't want us to talk to the children who have some horrible stories about their trek to the United States? Listen, Mark, children have been dying in northern Mexico to try to get into this country, literally dying. And this is a direct failure of the president's open border policies and his unwillingness to enforce the law. we need to have hearings. I talked to the chairman of the Armed Services Committee, Buck McKeon, today. He definitely sees that this is a major issue, and we need to get to the bottom of it. I talked to the Oversight and Government Reform Committee.
All right, Congress, we've spent 10 minutes on this. That's a good thing. I really appreciate that the fact that you're trying to get to the bottom of this. When you have hearings, I'd like to have you back. Not that we've talked about having hearings. This is a very, very important issue. It seems to me Congress, again, under the separation of powers doctrine, has a role here, and it's being obstructed by this president. It ultimately leads to the Oval Office. He sets the environment for this. All right, Congressman, God bless you. Thank you for everything, okay?
Thank you, Mark. God bless.
All right, take care. Well, I wanted to give you a little taste of what's going on. This congressman attempted to visit that facility and was told no. Media outlets are trying to get to these facilities, and they're told no. Is this America or not?